Thank you for joining me today. This is a functional flow where we're going to be working primarily with the lunge position to strengthen our legs, but we'll move all the other parts too. Let's begin standing on our mat, feet about hips width apart, and begin to just notice how your body feels today. Let your breath be gentle and natural. And feel the bottom of your feet pressing into the floor, grounding you, giving you stability, holding up the rest of your body. Bring your weight back into your heels and try to line up your hips, your shoulders over your heels and over your ankles. Inhale through the nose if you're able, and out the mouth. Take a couple more breaths like that, just connecting with the present moment and preparing yourself to flow. Open your eyes if they were closed, and go ahead and give your arms a little wiggle. Roll the shoulders. And you can turn onto your mat, coming to the top. And do a slight squat. So with your weight back in your heels, you're going to just kind of stick your butt out, keeping your toes on the floor still. And then we'll do a small cat-cow from this standing position. So you're going to tuck your tailbone, pointing it down towards the floor, and rounding out through the full spine, all the way to your upper back, and letting your head drop. And then point your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and arch up through your full back, one vertebrae at a time, eventually up to where the shoulders are. And thinking, imagining your sternum pointing forward. Inhale and exhale. Point the tailbone down towards the floor, rounding out your back. Do a couple more of these at a pace that feels good for you as you warm up your spine. And after your next cow pose, go ahead and tuck your tailbone down to come all the way down into a forward fold. Bend the knees. Try to get your hands to the floor, but your legs don't have to be straight. And then plant your hands onto the ground and step back into downward dog. As this is the first downward dog, go ahead and pedal out the feet, getting a good stretch in the calves. Step the right foot forward into a high lunge. And just notice how your body feels here. Press your right foot into the floor to kind of stabilize your leg. And make sure the back toes are firmly rooted as well, keeping the pose very active. So once you're in the lunge, it can be easy to kind of just slump in it and hang out, letting your hips drop. Pressing your foot into the floor helps really kick on those muscles and support your joints as you're in the position. Step back into downward dog. And then bring the left foot forward for the same thing. Letting your body feel how the lunge is today. Again, press the left foot into the mat, and your back toes are also firmly rooted. Your front leg should be at about a 90-degree angle. Step the left foot back and go back into downward dog. Notice how your legs might feel different after moving into the lunge. And then we'll go ahead and step the right foot forward again. Press into the right foot. Press your right foot into the mat and work to straighten out that leg. You may want to bring your back leg a little bit closer to do that, to get a good stretch in the top of the foot and continue the stretch in the calf too. You may be able to feel it throughout your whole hamstring. And then go ahead and point your toes up towards the ceiling and then come back into the lunge. And then straighten to point your toes up towards the ceiling. And bend back into the lunge. Just move like this for a few more times, trying not to overextend or push yourself too far, but just warm up those muscles and joints. You also want to be careful not to pop that right hip out as you move, but trying to keep your pelvis level and in line. After your next lunge forward, go ahead and step the right foot back into downward dog. And then the left foot forward. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to straighten the left leg by pressing your foot into the mat, getting a good top of the foot stretch. And then point the toes up towards the ceiling and then flowing back into the lunge. Do a couple more. And then after your next lunge, go ahead and step back into downward dog. Could pedal out the feet again, taking a little more time here this time. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, step your right foot forward, back into the lunge. And then go ahead and root your feet down, again pressing the right foot into the mat, keeping stability in the back leg. Float your fingers up off the floor. Now we're not coming all the way up yet. Your spine should be a long extension of your back leg. And pressing into that right foot is going to help stabilize that joint. Make sure you're not just kind of slumping into it again. Couple more breaths here. Then come down, step the right foot back into downward dog, and bring the left foot forward. Press your left foot into the mat and float the fingers up. Let's try 2 more breaths here. And then exhale, place your hands down and step back into downward dog. Now this time, let's step the right foot forward. pressing your foot into the mat. This time we'll come all the way up. You can bring a bend into the back leg so that your pelvis is straight and neutral. And then interlace your fingers behind you to give a nice shoulder stretch. Pressing into the mat with both feet the whole time to activate those legs and strengthen the muscles and joints. Bring your hands down, place the right foot back into downward dog, and then step the left foot forward to do the same thing on the other side, coming all the way up, bringing a bend into the back leg, and interlace your fingers the opposite way with the opposite forefinger in front. Really squeezing those elbows together, getting a good stretch and strengthen the arms. Then place your hands down. Step back into downward dog. And then this time we're going to come into plank position. Go ahead and first place your knees down. And then place both hands on the mat, about shoulder width apart. And bend the elbows out to the side. And then straightening them back in, you're going to rotate your arms so that your elbow pits are facing forward. And as you do that, really press into the mat with both hands. And that'll help spread your shoulder blades apart and bring stability to the shoulder joint as we move. So you don't want to just kind of hang in it. Hanging in those joints is going to be hard on them. So really pressing into the mat gives you stability and strength. And keeping those elbow pits forward gives you an external rotation. So then you can lift your knees if you're able. You can also keep your knees down in plank. Take a couple breaths here. And then press back into downward dog, keeping that stability in the shoulders. You might not be able to go as far in your downward dog when you hold that shoulder position, but that's okay. It's going to be better for all your joints in the long run. And then come back forward into plank, keeping those elbow pits forward. Back into downward dog. Plank. Downward dog. Flow a couple more times at your own pace. And next time you come into plank, step your right foot forward again. And we'll come all the way up. And now you're going to press your right foot into the mat enough so that you start to bring your left foot up off the ground. Now, as slowly as possible, come to stand, bringing your left foot forward and eventually over to cross your right leg into a figure four position. From here, we're going to come into a slight one-legged squat. Trying to keep the weight of your body back in the heel of your standing leg. So don't lean forward onto your toes, but do keep your toes on the ground. Ooh, lost it there for a minute. So just come back into it if you lose your balance. Hands can be in prayer or out in front of you, to the side, even all the way up. Whatever works for you today. Inhale and then exhale, and we're going to step back into the lunge as slowly as possible. So let each movement of your leg be held for a little longer than normal. It's a little trickier as you go down, but take your time. There we go, stepping into the lunge, regaining your stability and balance, and then bringing your hands back down to the mat, step back into downward dog. Step forward with your left foot, press your foot into the mat, and come all the way up. Take a breath here, and then press firmly into the mat with your left foot to float your right foot up, and as slowly as possible, bring it forward to cross over your left thigh into a figure four, and then come into that small squat. Keep your weight back in the heel of your standing leg, and focus forward to get your balance. Try not to pop out the hip of your standing leg. And really press into the mat with your foot. A couple more breaths here. You may notice one side is easier than the other. So release your right leg, begin to step it back. We're going to go back as slowly as possible again, or as slowly as feels good today, holding each position. If you lose your balance, just come back to it. And placing your foot back down. Gaining your stability, bringing your hands down to the ground and stepping back into downward dog. Come forward into plank, remembering to keep those shoulders stable by pressing your elbow pits forward and firmly rooting your hands into the ground, pushing the floor away from you. And let's flow again with back into downward dog to plank. Downward dog to plank. Do 2 more of those. After the next plank, step your right foot forward again into the lunge. Come all the way back up. And again, we're going to step our left foot forward, back into that figure four, taking it slow. Getting comfortable in the position with a small squat on one leg. Really pressing your foot into the floor and keeping your body's weight back in your heel. Hands in prayer right at your sternum. And then we're going to bring a slight twist of the rib cage. So this is small movement. We're not going into like a full turnaround twist. You're just going to rotate your rib cage. You can even put your hands on your rib cage if it helps. You're rotating it to the right side, keeping your pelvis forward. If breath is available to you in your nose today, inhale through your nose and out your nose. And as you do that, when you inhale, try to fill the rib cage 360 degrees and then blow it all the way out. Come back to center. Release your leg and step back slowly. Placing your foot down, bringing your hands to the floor, back into downward dog, and then bring the left foot forward. Come all the way up, and we'll do this on the other side. So firmly pressing your foot into the mat, float the right leg, slowly bringing it forward into the figure four. Add a small squat. Take a deep breath here. In and out your nose if you're able. And then go ahead and place your hands on your rib cage again, rotating this time to the left side. Sorry, it turns my back to you. Rotate to the left side, and again, breathe in and out your nose. Breathe in and out your nose to fill the rib cage 360 degrees as you twist. Then release the leg, stepping back slowly as you balance on your left leg. Bring your hands down, step back into downward dog. Come forward into plank for that flow again, pressing your hands into the mat. Stabilize the shoulders, and then back into downward dog. Plank, downward dog. Plank, downward dog. Step the right foot forward, and then bring the left foot forward with you. Keeping a bend in the knees and come up into a squat. Keep your weight back in your heels, but keep the toes on the ground. And you don't have to squat very far. It can be small. You can come down almost to 90 degrees. Feel what you're able to hold for a few breaths today. When you're ready, bring your hands back to prayer, right at your sternum, and we'll do that gentle rib cage twist to each side, flowing in the rotation for a few times. Again, that twist is small. You're not really twisting at your waist. You're trying to bring mobility to the upper back. And then you can rise up, shake the legs out a bit. I'm going to turn back this way. But you can be either way. This time we're going to step the right foot back, setting the knee down. Get comfortable here. If your knees feel sensitive, you can fold the mat to give you extra padding. You could also use a small folded blanket to help give you extra cushioning. Let's take a few breaths here. And then you're going to extend the left leg, placing the heel down on the ground. You can have a slight bend in the knee, and really press that press that heel into the floor, while you're also pressing your right knee and the back toes into the floor. So you're really squeezing your legs together, squeezing the inner thighs together. Inhale, and as you exhale, try to float the left foot up. This is a good balance exercise. Come back down if you need to, and then try again. Hands can be in prayer or out to the side. That might help a little more balance. Bringing that foot back down. And then we'll switch. Bring your left knee down. Bring the right foot forward. And then extend the leg. Still okay to have a bend in the knee. Press the heel into the floor. Press your knee and your back toes into the floor. Really squeeze those thighs together. And then coming up to float the right leg off the floor. You might notice one side is easier than the other. Maybe neither side is easy at all. And maybe your foot's not even coming off the ground, which is fine too. Even by focusing and trying to get your foot off the ground, you're giving your body a great workout and your brain. A little more. And we'll come back down from that funny balance exercise. So bring your right leg back, and then let's see if you can cross your ankles over each other to sit back and onto your tailbone without using your hands. Extend the legs out in front of you, and let's take a few breaths here, getting used to being on the floor now. I'm going to extend my mat back out. And then with your legs extended in front of you, place your hands behind you with your fingers pointing towards your buttocks. And then, similar to how we brought stability to the shoulders in plank, you're going to bend your elbows out to the side and then wrap them in together like they're squeezing together, and your elbow pits are facing forward towards the front of the room or side of the room. And you really press into the mat with both hands. So again, we're bringing stability into the shoulders as they're in this position behind us. Squeezing the elbows together. And then come up. Might want to roll out the wrists a little. That's a new position we haven't been in yet. And then placing your hands behind you. Again, pressing your hands into the mat, squeezing the elbows together. And then we're going to bend your knees, placing your feet flat on the floor. We'll go into a reverse tabletop here. So press your feet into the mat while simultaneously pressing your hands into the floor. And as you press your feet into the mat, let the pelvis lift. Try not to splay your knees out. They should stay about hips width apart. Take a few breaths here. Relaxing the jaw, your cheeks, but continuing to press into the hands and the feet. Come down. Roll out those wrists if you need to. And we'll do it again. If that position is really uncomfortable to you, you could also have your wrists out or your fingers facing out or even behind you. the main thing is really pressing your hands into the mat to stabilize those shoulder joints. But I'm going to continue like this for now, wrapping the elbows in towards each other. Place your feet on the floor and press into them to lift the pelvis. Your neck, you want to kind of keep in line with your spine, not overextending or arching. Press into the heels and the foot pads of both feet to really lift that pelvis. And try to keep your face and your jaw relaxed, as this is a pretty intense position. Squeeze those glutes, hamstrings, and then come back down. Roll out the wrists. And then we're going to come all the way down to the ground, but we're going to do it slowly. Go ahead and begin to bring your back down towards the floor. Tuck your tailbone, kind of rocking off your sit bones onto your tailbone. And then hold. Maybe a little bit of shakes. That's normal. Come back a little further and hold. If you notice your feet starting to want to lift off the ground to balance you, you could use your arms to stabilize you. Try to keep those feet, or at least your heels, down. Oh, look at me losing it. So come up a little, come back down, hold, come down a little more and hold, and then all the way down. Let your body feel the floor beneath it. Oh, and we're not just going to stay here. We have a little more work to do. So we'll play with some bridge poses. First, you're going to stay in this position. If you'd like padding for your head, you can place a small pillow behind you, or even fold the mat to give you extra padding. But feel the floor under your shoulder blades and under your tailbone. You're going to tuck your tailbone so your lower back pushes towards the floor, and then arch up. Tilting the tailbone, you get a big arch in your spine. And then tuck. Notice how that feels as you kind of roll back and forth. And then you're going to find your neutral position for the pelvis and the spine. So after you tuck and tilt the tailbone, come to where it feels natural, but there's a little bit of space in between the floor and your back. Doesn't have to be very much. And that's the position we want to hold as we move other parts of our body. So extend the right leg, keeping that neutral spine. And then inhale to lift the leg up about even with your other knee. Your legs are still about hips width apart. So inhale, and as you exhale, blow all the air out of your abdomen and lower your right leg to float off the floor. Inhale, bring the leg back up. Exhale, blow it all the way out. Your leg is heavy, 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 but don't let it touch the floor. Inhale, bring the leg back up. Blow all the air out. Heavy, heavy, heavy leg. Inhale, up. Exhale, out and down. Up, down. Keeping that neutral spine so your lower back is just a little bit up off the floor. Do one more if you're able, and then place your foot on the floor. Kind of reestablish. Make sure you're keeping that neutral spine, and then we'll extend the left leg. Inhale, bring the leg up, and exhale to lower it down. It weighs 100 pounds, but don't let it touch the floor. Lift back up with your inhale and exhale down. Let's do 6 more of these, counting on your own. I think I lost track. That's about 6, I think. So place your left foot down. And now we'll do more of the bridge variation. So with both feet firmly planted on the ground, press into both feet. Legs are about hips width apart to bring up the pelvis. Now we're not going into a big back bend. The goal here is not to get real high. Inhale and exhale. Make sure the legs are not splaying outward. Your knees aren't opening up, but they're staying firmly in line with the hips. Press into both feet to really activate those glutes. And think about dragging your heels towards your buttocks, even though they don't move. And then lower back down. Can hug the knees in if you'd like. And then place the feet back on the floor. Pressing them firmly into the mat again to bring the pelvis back up. Now once you have your position, knees are in line with hips. Pressing those feet into the floor. Gonna bring your weight into your right foot. Really press it into the floor to step the left foot off. Now as you do this, try not to dip the left side of your pelvis at all, but keep both sides of your pelvis in line. Sometimes it helps to actually place your hands on them to see if they're level. And step that left foot up. And then press into the mat with your left foot to step the right foot up. Keeping the pelvis lifted the whole time. Your steps might be small, and they might be slower or faster than mine. The most important part is to keep that pelvis level as you do it. And if you're not able to step up at all, just holding that bridge is absolutely great too. You might find one day you feel like stepping, and another day the bridge is just enough. After the next time you step your right foot, go ahead and lower back down to the ground. You can windshield wiper those legs if that feels good. We're not done yet. We're going to go ahead and bring your feet back to hips width apart. Press your feet into the mat to bring the pelvis up. And I think you can guess where we're going. Press the right foot into the mat to bring the left leg up and extend it all the way out if you are able. Again, be careful not to dip that hip as you do it. And hold. Bring your left foot down. Reestablish the balance and level each side of your pelvis, and then press the left foot into the ground to bring the right leg up. You can also stay with the stepping or just hold the bridge or rest if you need to. Bring your right foot down. Let's do each side once more. So press both feet in the mat. And then with the right foot on the mat, bring your left foot up. Bring your left foot down. Press both feet into the mat. And then keeping the left foot rooted, bring the right foot up. Bring your right foot down and lower your pelvis all the way down to the floor. Go ahead and windshield wiper those legs, or if it feels better to hug your knees in, you can do that. But let's start to bring the heart rate down. Come back to center, and keeping or reestablishing that neutral pelvis, you're going to lift both legs into the air to extend. The goal is to keep that neutral pelvis even when you lift your legs, so don't overarch or round your spine. And then you're going to externally rotate both legs so that the heels stay connected. And really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the inner thighs together. Inhale and exhale all the way out. And then bring them back together. And just go ahead and externally rotate a couple of times. Squeezing the thighs together and letting that be its own little flow. Bring the feet together, bring them back down to the mat. Inhale and exhale here. Inhale and exhale. Lift your legs back up, keeping the neutral spine, placing your heels together, and then bringing your feet together. Externally rotate with the heels together. And then we're going to bend your knees into kind of a little butterfly pose with just those heels pressing together. And then extend back up, keeping the heels connected all the way up, feet together, externally rotate back out, back into butterfly, extend the legs, feet together, externally rotate, butterfly, extend the legs, feet together. Let's do one more. Externally rotate, butterfly, extend, feet together, and bring your feet back down to the mat. Now spread your feet out to the edges of the mat, and we'll just rest here for a couple of breaths with the knees together. Let your tailbone melt back into the floor, your shoulders, your spine. Then go ahead and extend the legs out and bring your right knee forward to hug. Try to keep that neutral spine as you hug your leg in, so you're not rounding, you're not trying to get your knee as close to your chest as possible. You're just bringing a good stretch to the hamstring, keeping the neutral spine. If you're able, you could also grab the foot and get an extra stretch to the Achilles tendon in the calf. Whatever works for you today. Extend the right leg back down. Bring the left leg in. Keeping that neutral spine, hugging your knee or grabbing the foot. Extend the left leg out and begin to calm your body, slow your breath into a Shavasana. I'd like to read you a quote as it's fall in the Midwest here. But after the quote, feel free to just stay in Shavasana for at least 10 minutes if you're able, letting your body rest and relax after that movement practice. The stripped and lovely maple grieves the loss of its departed leaves. Tall God must see our souls this way and smile.